Hello, everybody. It's Stephen and Walter here for another episode of So Chatty. And yeah, what are we going to talk about today? Walter says he doesn't know because I don't tell him. He has to blow it
have
in
to
on
guess.
what's that?
I have to improvise.
Yeah, you have to improvise. You're so good at that.
Well, you're doing Accuquilt, aren't you?
Yes, we are. We are. A main part of today's is another episode in our ongoing series about using your Accuquilt. And today we're going to be showing you how to do a fairly complex block. But more about that in a minute. But let's take a look at what we've been working on. So, Walter, did you get that shirt done?
No, I'm working on the collar. I haven't. I had to cut it out. So, I didn't cut it out yet, so I had to cut it out. And since I was running out of fabric.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so I did get it cut out of the fabric. So, and I've got it interfaced. I just have to sew it onto the shirt.
Okay. And I've been making them some buttons from my 3D printers to try out or whatever. So yeah, another use for your 3D printer. But more about that on Monday Morning Coffee with me. But for today, I'm not going to show you any of that, but I am going to show you, we're going to come back to Walter in a minute about his continuing adventures with Lucy and doing free motion quilting, and he has something exciting to tell you and show you and everything like that. But before then, before he gets the limelight and takes all the credit for everything and I just sit back here and look like a bump, no comments from the peanut gallery. Here's what I've been working on. Okay, so this is not done. It's an In the Hoop project. Yeah, it's another table runner, but I thought this one was pretty, kind of springy like. So I think I'm going to put one more panel in the center, rectangular one, and I think that'll be long enough for where I think I may put it. I'll see. I'm debating whether it's going to go on the dining room table, which is longer, or on the kitchen table. If it's on the kitchen table, 3 panels in the center will be enough. But if it's going on the dining room table, I probably have to have 4 panels in the center. So I'll see when I get to it with that. And then I am going to use, which I talked about on the Idiot Quilter on Tuesday, the new book called The Quilt Binding Bible. I am going to follow her instructions for putting a binding on this on a curve. I think I know already how you would do that because I've done it before. But I think this time I will cut my binding on the biased for my strips, because when they go around curves, they'll stretch a little bit and it's easier to go around the curve, although these aren't really severe curves. And I have used regularly straight of grain binding to go around the edges, but I'm just going to try it with this one. It'll probably give me a flatter binding around the ends of this table runner. That's my theory anyways. We'll see how that works out. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, let me just grab it here. You've already seen it. I already did a review on it, but this is a well worth investing in this. It's about $30 to some on Amazon. That's Canadian, so cheaper for Americans. But everything you ever want to know about binding, different types of binding, everything like that is all in this book. And I think it's really good. So I actually have it sitting very close to me right now. Not that I'm binding every day, mind you, but I think that was a well worth the money. Okay.
Is that a recent
Yes,
purchase?
it is. It was published just last year, 2005.
And did somebody suggest it?
Yes, the Opinionated Quilter.
Oh,
I talked about that. If you watched my videos, you would know these things,
don't know.
but you don't. Yeah. Anyways, yes, it was recommended by Maureen O'Connor, who is the Opinionated Quilter. And if Maureen says it's good because everything she talks about, she's matter of fact, and she's going to be one of my presenters on for the retreat. More about the retreat in a moment. And I'm kind of excited about having her because she's doing a whole thing about scraps, and because she definitely loves to make quilts with scraps. And so she's kind of your scrap quilt expert. And I know a lot of people out there, they love making scrap quilts too. I do to a point as well. Funny thing about making a scrap quilt, you figure you're going to use up all your scraps that way. No, it makes more scraps. I've never figured out why that is. It's a mystery. So that's what I've been working on. Plus, I have been working again on another block set in the Alaskan quilt. This is block set number 4. I'm getting better at them. with the ruler and the whole bit. Practice makes perfect. Uh, and I have done a little video about this as well. And as you know, I'm doing videos with each block, but they're not tutorials. They're more or less, I'm going to show you basically what I have to do to get the block finished, any trials and tribulations I have with it, and then moving on. So when I put them all together, well, I'm showing them now one at a time each week on the Idiot Quilter. But after I have the whole quilt finished and done, I think I'll put them all together as one standalone video. But this quilt is not for the faint of heart. And I did rip out this block when I got almost to the end of it. I had to rip out the last part of it, and because I got the pieces turned upside down. So these points, you see these dark points, corners? Well, I got it turned around on this piece so that this corner was up here and it can't be up there, because it's very important these are all in the right position, because when you start putting all the blocks together, it starts to create secondary patterns. So there has to be, they have to be coordinated to, or it's not going to look right. So yeah, but that figures. I always do something where I have to rip something out. And they're coming out the size they're supposed to come out, so I'm happy about that. Although you gotta be careful when you're trimming them up on the ends, because you need about, see if you look up here at this one, this point right here, I don't know if you can see my arrow right there, and this point here on this one, notice there's more space between it and this, because for some reason I didn't get it quite right, and I need to have 1/4 of an inch from that point to that edge of the seam, or I'm going to lose my point. And I am going to lose my point. I'm just going to lose a little. I'll do a little fudging. When I start sewing this down, instead of it being a 1/4 inch seam allowance, when I get here, I'll probably move to about 1/8 of an inch and then back again. You can do that if you're careful. And that may at least get most of the point in there. And I'll give you another example. It's only on this one. It's probably the first one that I made in the set. But you see here, I cut off the very tip of the point. Now, when this is in the quilt, and it's all the pieces are put together, no one's going to notice that unless, one, they're a quilt judge, and this isn't going in a competition, so scratch that off my list, or if I point it out, as I just did to you. But, yeah, it'll be fine. It'll all work out.
It's pointless.
It's pointless. Yeah, right. These are the things that people who sew shirts don't worry about. They go, yeah.
So there's a point at the top missing.
Oh, there. Screw off. It's supposed to be like that. Yeah. But it's not worth trying to yank it out and do it over again. I'm not doing that. It'll be fine. It'll quilt out. That's what we always say, isn't it? It'll quilt out. So I don't think I have anything else in here. Oh, I do. Okay. Let's talk about, let's talk about this. These are Walter's feathers. So talk to us about this.
From left to right, from left being where I started to right where I ended. I started trying to do feathers, but you get conflicting. I've been watching different kinds of videos and stuff, and you get conflicting recommendations as to how to do it. Mm-hmm. So the one in the middle that looks all over the place, I was trying to do something more advanced than what I could do. So like
we're trying to do echo them?
Well, no, they suggested putting a curvy line in it and then putting a line through it so that you ended up going around it.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Okay.
Which I did sort of, but it didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. But actually for a first time try,
it's not bad. Well, I'm looking down here. Is this actually stitched in, these curly things, or that just excess thread that's laying there that you didn't cut out?
No, I don't know what that is. I think that might be excess thread, but I started off with, what happens is with the feathers, if you notice, even the one on the extreme left, is that going up on the right side seems to work okay, but going on the left side I have trouble with.
And is that because you're right-handed?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So then the next one over I gave up halfway through. And you see, if you noticed, I had a curvy line here.
Yeah, they can't see your finger.
And a curvy line here, going up
No,
the
okay, you
spine,
got it.
up the spine.
Okay.
And then I have these lines here, and it's supposed to be that you go do these up here, and then that's when you curve around and go around the other way, right? And I couldn't figure out in my head how to do that, even though I watched the video 50 times over. Anyway, and here I did a little better, but still, since it's a first try and I still haven't mastered feathers, that was kind of too advanced for me. So I went back to just doing feathers over here.
Mm-hmm.
And as I got, what my problem was is I was doing bump backs. And when I hit the bump back here, what I found is I wasn't traveling down. You have to backtrack here. And I wasn't traveling down far enough to do the bump back.
Oh.
So I got that clued in here on how to do that. So my feathers began to get better.
Yeah, they did.
Right? And kept getting better and better. The only thing is I was traveling down the spine and I ended up getting too much spine. So I have to figure that out again too.
But that second last one and that very last one, you definitely can see your progression.
Yeah, I'm getting better at it.
Yeah, actually, I think they're looking pretty good.
Yeah.
And once you figure out how not to, when you're traveling.
And even the ones on the right-hand side of the line are getting better.
Yeah. Well, you're proving the fact that you need practice.
Yeah.
But what I really want to know is, so what were you doing down here?
Oh, I had some extra time and I didn't feel like moving the quilt up. So I started doing some pebbles and I threw in the odd big pebble.
Oh, okay. Well, a variety of pebbles.
Yeah.
Well,
I saw that on a video I was watching that they were doing pebbles and then they threw in a big one every once in a while.
Yeah, well, you do that. I suppose the smaller ones would get closer to what you might be going around for custom, and the bigger ones are more filler in that case or whatever. But it's looking, boy, if we compare where you started, and then come down here, there's definitely advancement. So maybe when we take this off, I'll take a picture of the whole thing laid out, and you'll be able to see the marked difference. So what's next on the agenda as far as your tripping down the free motion way?
Well, one of the things I'm going to have to start doing is I have to plan out the one that you created for me to do blocks. What I want to focus on getting another couple of sheets and then drawing like triangles and stuff on it and doing some custom stuff in each of the triangles so that when I actually go to a quilt, I'll start doing sort of a custom inside sections of the quilt just to get a hang of how to do it.
I might have a pattern that would do that with the computer, and then you just fill in your triangles or something across. Or something. I have to look and see.
Yeah, okay.
What about ruler work though?
Yeah, part of that would be ruler work. Yeah, so I want to try and get the platform on. I'm not sure if I can free motion with the platform on as well.
Yeah, I think
I can. The platform for the ruler, because
because the platform,
some of it I might do a combination of free motion and using rulers.
Yeah, I think the platform moves with the whole thing.
Yeah,
it just extends that piece that the needle comes down on so that you can have room to put your ruler on it. But I think you can still do free motion with the ruler with the platform.
Yeah, I'd like to try that a little bit. Yeah, I want to practice my feathers more too. So, but that's sort of like.
Yeah, well, the more you practice them, the better you get.
Yeah, and I find that if I found that if I do a pattern, right, and then I get, rather than keep doing the same pattern over and over again, making the same mistakes over and over again, I found that I just stop at some point, like when I was doing the pebbles and then the circles, right? And I find if I stop and then go back to it every once in a while, that it's like I pick it back up again real quick.
Well, that's muscle memory, or whatever they call it, I guess.
Yeah, and
I talk about this as if I know.
And part of that is the flow of how to handle the machine.
Well, yeah, you got to get used to. But I
Yeah.
think, well, you and Lucy have a nice relationship now, and I walk in the room and Lucy snarls.
Yeah.
She goes, "Get out! I want Walter. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. I'm not that kind of
And
girl."
I've got the hang of, doing simple things like I have to pull the thread up and I have to
Mm-hmm.
change the bobbin and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So,
Well, they're coming along nicely. Yep. Okay. 6 months time.
yeah,
That's good.
it's slow. Actually, it's a little frustrating at first, but once you start seeing things progress,
Mm-hmm.
then it gets a little bit more,
Well, it gives you the incentive to
yeah,
carry
more,
on.
I get a little bit more keen on doing it.
But anyways, they're coming along, and we'll keep you abreast of Walter's progress as the weeks go on. So, coming to announcements now. Sewing with me on Wednesdays. Now, a few people, new people, okay? And I know it's confusing. Can't find the link. The link is always the same, and it's always in the same spot. And the problem they're saying is they can't find what I call the show notes, or it's also known as the description box. I have created a little video piece, not to show today, but I will be showing it on Monday Morning Coffee, showing you exactly where you will find and how to expand that box, because it's collapsed. It's only about a line of text underneath the video, and there's a little word more. I've mentioned this before, but some people still aren't getting it, which begs to question, how closely are you listening to what we talk about?
Yeah.
Really? Come on, children. Okay? This is just like teaching in
Now,
school.
didn't you say that more doesn't show up very well if they're on a phone?
If they're on a phone, it shows up, but for some reason my email address, where you go to the bottom of that box and you'll see something that says about, and if you click on that, it expands up to another little menu, and in that menu is my email address is located in there, and I talk about this in the video as well. Well, I've discovered, because I was going to put that in the video, if you were using like a phone, cell phone with it, that doesn't show up. The about box does, and it goes to this other menu, but the part where it's got my email, that's not there, and I don't understand why that is. And that's not me, that is YouTube. So things don't work exactly the same when you flip devices, from your laptop to your cell phone
Yeah,
to your
because I
iPad.
think we don't probably realize that, but there are probably a lot more people using pads and
Yeah,
phones than
that
we
could be.
realize because we use computers.
Yeah. So anyways, there will be this video up on Monday Morning Coffee to help explain that to you. So please, if you are struggling with that, watch that. I don't know what to tell you about iPhones though, and I didn't do anything about iPads. So maybe I'll look into the iPad too and take a look and see what's showing up on it. And I'll talk about that, or I'll add that to Monday's video. But anyways, yeah, that should help you out to a certain extent. Worst case scenario is if you can't find the link and you really want to come to the Wednesday, the link never changes. It's the same. Send me an email. Oh, if you can't find my email address, that might be a problem. Never mind. Or if you know how to write a comment, because I look at the comments every day. I check them, and of course then I'll have to write it back in the comment because I won't have your email address. Okay, a lot of confusion here. Whatever. Try and figure it out best you can. Okay, so Stephen and Walter live, by the way, on this Sunday will not be at 4 p.m. Eastern time as it usually is. It will be 1 hour earlier. It'll be at 3 p.m. Eastern time because we're going over to my sister's for dinner, so we need to move everything up so we can get there at a decent time for her. So this Sunday only, because it's Easter Sunday and we're going out for dinner, 3 o'clock Eastern time, as opposed to starting at 4 o'clock Eastern time. We'll see how many people got that with it. Okay, Sew Off. Oh, we were on the Sew Off Kilter podcast with Sew Becca and Ian, the off kilter quilter crafter. Sorry, It's Crafter. And we actually recorded that a couple of weeks ago, but they posted it the other day. They wanted to post it before my retreat because we do talk about the retreat on that. It's a scream if you haven't seen it. They are a lot of fun, and we had a good time on that, doing that video with them. So do check it out. You'll have to go to their channel, which is So Off Kilter Podcast, and you'll find it in YouTube for that. Okay, retreat. Let's talk about the retreat. Registration opens at the time of recording of this tomorrow. So tomorrow for me right now is April the 4th, 2026. Registration starts at 9 a.m. Now don't get in a panic. Eastern time. Don't get into panic. Okay. Yeah, it's good to register as soon as you can, but if you're not there right at 9 o'clock, I don't think you're going to have to worry about not getting a spot. But I would get on there as soon as you possibly can. But please, please, I don't want to hurt you emotionally. Don't try to register before 9 a.m. Eastern time, Saturday, April 4th. Because I will not acknowledge your request to register. I'm trying to make it fair because I usually have a waiting list. So I'm trying to make it fair for everybody. So those early birders, and I've already had several try, who've decided, oh yeah, I'll just send off the registration information like yesterday. No, I've sent them back a very nice note saying, sorry, I cannot register you until 9 a.m. Eastern Time, Saturday, April 4th. Okay? Did everybody get that? Because you're going to think I'm just a nasty so-and-so because you tried to register at 8:59 Eastern Time on Saturday, April the 4th, and I ignored it. So don't. And that way, no one can accuse me of playing favorites, as if I have some, with it all. Everybody's getting their fair kick at it, okay? But don't panic. It's not going to fill up within the first hour. I mean, if it did, I would be shocked. I'd be absolutely shocked. That has never happened before. But it does fill up quickly, and I do expect about 45 to 50 people by the end of Saturday will have already registered for it. It'll still be open. It's open until April the 13th for registering. So you still have lots of time, but just if you're sitting on the fence, quickly make up your mind one way or the other. Okay. And for those of you on my mailing list, I already sent you out a reminder of that earlier today. Okay, what's next? I think that's all the news there. Anything you can think of that we've left off before we move into the Accuquilt?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So this week for the Accuquilt. Now, we've already looked at the basics of the Accuquilt, like what's involved financially with it, because it is a big investment. And we've talked about the different types of dies, you know, the ones that we feel you'll get the biggest bang for your buck at first. And if you're an applicator, well, we already showed you in one video how you can do a little cheat that saves you some money for doing, if you have an embroidery machine. If you don't, well, it's not going to work. You'll have to do it the old-fashioned way with the actual dies to cut the shape you want. So this week, we're going to look at putting a block together, a fairly complex block. I probably shouldn't have started with the most complex, but I've been dying to try this block out. So this was my excuse. I have several blocks that are fairly complicated that I bought the die for, and that's one thing Accuquilt is really good for, are for complicated blocks that have a lot of pieces, because it cuts your pieces accurately and it isn't so fatiguing on you, you know, cut. So, you know, to use an Art East expression. So I put together what's called a carpenter's wheel. And I take you through that process in the video today. The video runs about 21 minutes. So you may want to get a cup of coffee, pause this, get a coffee, and sit and watch this. But it does a wonderful job. And along the way, I'm telling you what the advantages are of using this kind of system when it comes to accuracy of your pieces and all of that. Next week, we will look at a simpler block. Well, we'll actually look at the cube, the 8-inch cube. And that's the one that has several dies in it that cost around just under $300 Canadian for them, which is a big investment, but you can get over 72 different blocks from that one set. And we'll show you how I'll show you how they organize the set and the little pattern book that comes with it, and we'll do one of the blocks together as well. And when I say us, I mean you and me, not him, with it. Well, it doesn't cut out shirt patterns, so there you are. So yeah, that's what's for next week. So without further ado, here is this week's installment of using your Accuquilt to cut a complex block. So, in continuing our series here on using the Accuquilt, I thought I'd get into something a little bit more complex, and at first glance looks very difficult, I guess is the word I'm looking for, and that is the Carpenter's wheel. And that's what this die is that I have here. Now, I have had this die for several years, and I just took it out of the wrapper. So this is going to be me showing you how I approach a die for the first time that I'm not familiar with. This one has a lot of pieces, as you can see, to make this, and it makes a fairly large block. It makes an 18-inch block. Now, this is the packaging that it comes in, and if you flip it over to the back of the packaging, they give you some basic instructions on how to cut this out, which they also look a little intimidating, but they do have a written version here telling you that you need 5 different colors of fabric and what pieces you need to cut out and for how many you need to cut out for each unit. This is a suggestion of a way you could lay it out to create this kind of quilt. We're just going to deal with the single block itself today. So I went online to Accuquilt and I downloaded it because with every one of their dies they have basic instructions. So I downloaded this sheet. I'm sorry that the white contrast is not showing the writing, but it doesn't matter, you're not going to be reading it anyways. And I think this printout does a better job than the back of this showing you what you need to cut out. So that's what we'll be referring to today. So let's take a look at the die. And again, the die looks a little busy. You have, and I'm going to turn it this way for you right now. You have A pieces, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 A pieces. There's B pieces, which form half square triangles. There's 3 of those half square triangles. There's smaller half square triangles, and they're marked as D, and that makes 2 of those. And then we have a larger half square triangle. Actually, it's a quarter square triangle, and that's the C pieces. So these letters are important because they correspond to the parts and colors you need to cut out. So let's just take a look at these instructions first of all and see what they're telling us. They say you need fabric cutting tips for 5 color 18-inch finished Carpenter's wheel block. Place fabric over shapes and run through the cutter. So they go through each color, and I have stuck pretty much to the colors they are suggesting. They're saying that fabric 1 is a pink, so there's my pink. Fabric 2 is a darker pink, so that's what I'm going to use for that. And then they call for a teal, so this is my fabric, that's a teal. And then they want a yellow, so this is going to be my yellow. And then they want a gray, and this is sort of my gray. This is all kind of a gray-green, green-gray, whatever. But these are what the colors I'm going to work with. I'm not really sure how they're going to look together, but I thought for the sake of the demo, I would stick to as close to the colors that they are using in their example. So let's get on with fabric color number 1. It's the pink, so that would be this color. And they say to cut 3 23 1/8 by 2 7/8 rectangles. Place right side up over shapes A to cut. There will be 2 extra shapes, so we have to do 16 A's. Now, you can stick to their instructions. They're talking about cutting it as a strip. So let's do that. However, if you've got scrap fabrics, and actually these ones are kind of scrap fabrics, because some of these I have used, and they're saying they want you to cut a strip 23 1/8 by 2 7/8. I do not deal well with 7/8. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to cut a strip from here that is 3 inches. They want it 2 7/8. I'm going to go with 3 inches. Yes, there's going to be more waste. And I think that's why they have an 1/8 of an inch, so you have less waste. I'm not going to worry about waste. I've told you that before. I'm not really someone who worries about that too much. Maybe I should, but I don't. So I'm just getting out my ruler here. I'm going to square off this piece of fabric. And I'm going to cut a strip 3 inches. And I think I'll probably need 2 strips. They say you need 3. So I've got, yeah, probably do. So that's 3 inches, cut again at 6 inches, and cut again at 9 inches. Okay. Now the reason I'm cutting these strips is for the sake of the demo. This is going to make things a little easier to work with. So then they say, you've got to make 16 A strips, A shapes, that's these A shapes. You need to cut out, and there's 6 of them on there, so of 3 strips, that's going to give me 18. That's the 2 extras. Okay, that's what they said. So we place this down over top. Now we got a problem. It's too short. I'm not going to worry about that. Just make sure it's cut on the edges. I don't have any of the selvage there, because I still think with these 3 strips I can get out exactly what I need, because Accuquilt will cut up to 6 pieces of fabric. Yeah, that one's going to be a partial, so I'm not going to worry about that. That'll be waste. Okay, so then I'm going to need a cutting mat. And this is the big cutting mat. Okay, now I need my machine. So I'm going to go and get my machine set up. Okay, I've got my machine all set up. That's why it would be really nice to have an area in my sewing room where I could always leave it set up, but I just don't have the space for that. So anyways, it's set up, ready to go. My cutting mat is on top of my die. My fabric's in place. So let's go. Now you might hear, I don't know if the microphone's picking up, there's a little bit of cracking sound. That's normal when you use a die for the first time. And I'm just going to switch it over here a little bit because it's going to run into my sewing machine that's over on that end. Okay, so I have it here, and I hope you can see that. It's kind of awkward. I've got limited space here. Okay, you can see most of it, I think, here. I'm just going to take my hand and rub it over to get rid of some of the static. And then lift this up. Oops, there's one piece that's already come off. And so, presto, magico. That's a piece of scrap. I have cut 1, 2, oh, I may have cut enough of that strip. What are those? That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 10. 10, another 3 is 13. And another 3 is, I do have that enough here, don't I? I only got 2 out of that one. So I think I need 1 more. So I'm going to cut 1 more. So I went ahead and cut out all my pieces, but I used the same method that I showed you for the first set. I cut strips according to what the instructions said to cut them, laid them down, put on my cutting mat, ran them through the machine. Now, it does get a little confusing when you're working with half square triangles because they tell you need 8 pieces, but they show them as, excuse me, as a half square triangle. And if you look on their diagram, this is the printed out version of the instructions. And I don't know if you can see that. But there is a diagram showing you exactly how many you need of each of the cuts on the board. So just follow that. Excuse me, little frog in my throat. So what I've done is I've laid them all out and I've labeled them. And I'll put these in groups with a clip on them. But here I've got, this is fabric 1, and I've got it as fabric 1, F1. These are A pieces, and there's 16 of those. And I did that for everything. Now, I may have a few extra pieces. That happens, and that's okay. A little extra isn't bad. But then you're probably wondering, how much waste is there? Here's my waste right there. Now, I probably have more waste than what you might get because it depends on how you cut it and how much you're concerned about waste. You could cut this down a little bit, but that's the waste right there. And I don't think that's too bad. Not in terms of the speed that it takes you to cut these pieces. So now comes the sewing part. Now, in accordance with the instructions, I have laid out all of my pieces for the first unit on some design boards that I'll be able to take over to my sewing machine and sew in exactly this order. You're making 4 of these in step 1, these strips. And I've looked at the diagram and I have matched up the pieces that I need and I've put them in the right orientation. So now I'm going to take them to the sewing machine and sew them. I'm going to show you how Accuquilt has designed this die so that you can get everything lined up perfectly on your sewing machine. Okay, so time to sew. So I have one of my design boards off screen over here that I showed you a moment ago with my first strip all laid out in the order that I need to sew it, and I've checked the information on the instruction sheet for that. So we're going to start with this piece, and we're going to add this piece to it, and this piece is going up there. Now, if you look, there are no dog ears on these pieces. Normally, if you'd cut these pieces out with a ruler, you'd have dog ears that you'd eventually have to trim. But what they've done is they have taken the dog ears off and they have sort of taken the corner and made a little straight line on each side of it. And they've done that on all the pieces so you can line them up correctly. So all I need to do is flip this over, match up that edge with those cuts, and I know exactly where I need to sew. So I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Making sure my pieces are adjusted properly. And if I've done this right, everything should line right up. When I open it up, I'm just going to finger press it, and there we have our first strip. So now I'm going to add the next piece to this. And it might be handy to have your instruction sheet next to you so you get things in the right orientation. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line up that top edge, and you'll be able to see this very clearly when you go to do this. I know it's a little difficult to see when I have it under the camera here, but it'll be very self-evident when you go to sew them together. So we're going to open up this piece and finger press it. There we go. We're going to add our next piece. Making sure I have everything lined up. Now I sometimes like to use my awl on some of these just to make sure that all my pieces are staying put. And we'll open this up and finger press it. And our last piece. And again, lining up the corners exactly where the Accuquilt has cut them. Straighten things out here, making sure everything is accurate. And finger press this piece. And there we go. We have perfect points. Hold it up this way so you can see it. And everything is lined up exactly the way it's supposed to be. Now, according to the instructions, I need to make 3 more of these for a total of 4 strips. So I'm going to do those off camera. So now we're on step 3, and we're going to make some strips a little bit shorter than the first ones, but we have 2 sets to make, a left set and a right set. This is my left set laid out. So we start with a D, go to an A, and go to a C as laid out here. And then we're going to move over to the right side, and it looks almost the same except it's a mirror image. And so we're starting with a C, an A, and ending with a D piece. So I'm going to sew these all together and show you the next step. Now, in step 4, we're making another couple of strips, and we have a right side and a left side. This is the right side laid out here for sewing, and we have an A in here in the other color of pink. We have gray C pieces. I believe those are D pieces, and then we have B yellows for that, and then it's a mirror image for the other one. Same pieces, same lettering, just it's on the opposite side, as you can see here, the mirrored look. So I'm going to sew those together and we move on from there. Okay, so step 5 is that we take step 3 and step 4, the pieces from that, and lay them out for a right side and a left side, and we're making 4 of these units for each side. So here you can see I have step 3 laid out, and I have step 4 laid out for the right side, and similarly just a mirror image for the left side. Step 3, step 4, this becomes step 5, and we're doing 4 of these pieces each. So you can see I have 2 layers here of everything laid out on my board. So I'm going to sew those together, and then we'll come back for step 6. So we're at step 6 and we're getting there. So now we have these big pieces where we're going to put the last 2 pieces that the first strips that we made, as you can see here, with the part we just finished making, and we have a left and we have a right side. So we have mirror images between these 2. Hard to see in the camera, get them all in here in the shot. So I'm going to sew this to this, and etc. Now at this point you might want to use some clips or pins because these pieces are getting a little bit bigger, so there's more chance of them shifting around in your sewing machine. So I'm going to go and sew those, and then we come back for the final steps. Okay, so now we're at step number 7, second last step, and we're going to sew our quadrants together. And these are the left and the right pieces that we just sewed together. So we take a left one and a right one, and we're going to sew these 2 pieces together, and we're going to do that 4 times to make 4 quadrants. So the last step is to sew 2 of these together and 2 of these together, and then sew both rows together, and we will have our carpenter's wheel. So I'll come back and show you the final version. So here we have a carpenter's wheel. No, we don't. I sewed something wrong in that last step.
I think I got my pieces reversed because it's not supposed to look like that. So I'm going to see if I can fix that. And so there we have it, what it's supposed to look like. This is the carpenter's wheel done with the Accuquilt, and you can see how accurate it makes your pieces, your points, everything. They don't get cut off. This is exactly 18.5 inches unfinished, and that is exactly what it's supposed to be. So I'm very pleased with the way it turned out. May not be so thrilled with the color scheme I used, but that is how you use an Accuquilt. And this was a fairly complex block. It did take a little bit of time, but once you have your fabrics picked, you have them all pre-prepped, meaning that you have given them a little bit of acorn precision pressing solution or whatever you use as a starch, because that'll make cutting your fabric easier. And cutting the strips out as they tell you to. Once you have all the pieces cut, well, that's half the battle, isn't it? And sewing it is a breeze. I didn't use any clips with this until I got to the very last quadrants because they were much bigger pieces. But everything lined up perfectly because of the way the Accuquilt cuts the fabric. It can be a little confusing when you're putting it together because there's a lot of geometric shapes in this, but that's me. That's not Accuquilt, that's me. So I'm pleased with the way this turned out, and I hope you learned something from this demonstration of using the Accuquilt carpenter's wheel die.
Okay, so I hope that showed you how you go about using the block for something like that, or the die for something like this and everything. I hope it may have made up your mind that one, you don't want to spend that kind of money. I mean, that die, I don't think I mentioned the cost of that die, but that die was well over $100 for the one die. Um, and the bigger dies they're going to be, 100 plus Canadian. So yeah, again, an investment, but I could make an entire quilt using that one die with it too. So unlike the applique ones, the ones that cut out the cute little characters or things like that, they might be a one-off. They're cheaper. They're maybe $50, $60 for one of those, or maybe slightly less. It depends on which one you've picked. In my way of thinking, unless you're going to use an Accuquilt die over and over and over again, you're not going to get your money's worth out of some of those applique ones. Sure, they look cute, but they're one-off projects with that kind of thing. But it's all up to you. And speaking of that, we did have a comment this week about using the Accuquilt die for applique. And Debbie wrote, I love the old method. That's all I know. Applique is so cute. Gives any project such a special extra touch. Yeah, she's right. You may, if you've been an appliquer all your life, you may not be comfortable using the Accuquilt system because it is different from what you're used to. And, if you're happy with cutting things out, see, I'm not. I'm not happy having to cut out something so precisely and then having to sew around it very accurately. I've done it, but I can't say I enjoy it. Whereas with the Accuquilt, bang. And even if you use the method where you just use the die to cut out the shapes and then you sew it with your sewing machine, it is still, I think, faster and more accurate than doing it the old-fashioned way. However, if you've been doing the old-fashioned way for 50 bloody years, you're probably an expert. So, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And if you enjoy doing it too. I mean, there are people who love to hand sew. I do not. So this appeals to me, the Accuquilt kind of thing.
Yeah, so really the Accuquilt's just showing you an option, right?
Yeah,
so.
It's just giving you an option for it, and which is fine. Now, especially now, if you like raw edge applique, okay, this is what the Accuquilt is good for. Turned applique, not so sure. I have never done turned applique in any form, and in my way of thinking, you probably could. They're going to be a little smaller pieces because you're going to take part of it and turn it under, and you have to go around. So, yeah, I guess you could do it. But I'm not an experienced.
Yeah, you've never really done it.
No, I've never done it.
You can't really say, right?
It scares me to do something.
Actually,
like that.
It looks nice.
I know it looks really good because raw edge is what it says. It's raw edge. Whereas turned, you do not have any unfinished edges and
No.
no fraying.
Yeah. Well,
So
I mean,
yeah,
a lot of people that are doing it as a craft, and they are used to doing something a certain way. I'm sure that doing if they're used to it and they enjoy doing it that way,
then keep on.
then keep on, because that the Accuquilt doesn't really solve anything for you.
No, that's
Um,
right.
but if somebody has trouble, not necessarily for applique, but if somebody for the blocks and that, if somebody has trouble cutting out uh,
Intricate shapes.
intricate shapes or whatever accurately, then it
Yeah.
may be an option for you.
And also, as you get older, you don't have the grip you used to have, and if you're using scissors or whatever to cut out these things, maybe this would be better for you. And I've said it before, Accuquilt is designed, especially the electric machine, for people who do have arthritis or rheumatism in their fingers or their hands, that kind of thing. Or, they don't have the upper body strength for, pulling all those things around, and that's why I would recommend the electric machine as opposed to the crank machine. So, it depends on your situation for that. But it is a tool in your arsenal. You use it or make the decision to use it depending on your particular situation. And when it comes to a lot of people do their applique as hand sewing. I mean, I've only done applique on a sewing machine. I don't hand sew. But some people love to hand sew. And they like to sit in front of a television set or something watching a movie, and I couldn't do that. I couldn't do the two the same. So, and it's more portable. You're going on a long trip or something, you take out some of your blocks that you might be appliquing on, and there you go. You can be stitching while you're, flying somewhere in the car, whatever, with it. So, you have to balance off what works for you with the whole bit. We're not trying to convince you to buy an Accuquilt machine. We're just showing you what we know from our experience with the Accuquilt machine. We are not sponsored by Accuquilt. After I showed you that freebie, kind of thing, I'll never be sponsored by them. But no, we are not trying to sell anybody an Accuquilt. We're just being very honest about how we use it. And some people may disagree about how we use it too, which is fine. To each his own.
Yeah, everybody has their own opinion and stuff. It's just like if you buy electronic books and you read electronic books, and then you always have people say, "Oh, I don't like electronic books. I like reading. I like the feel of
a real book. And that's fine. You do you. I love electronic books. But anyways, okay. So as I said, next week we're going to look at doing a block using the cube system that they have. Eventually, I'm hoping, no promises, that will do an entire quilt, maybe a sampler like quilt, from all of these blocks that I'm showing you that I am making now. Maybe. I don't know.
You could do that from a cube and do different blocks from the cube.
Yeah.
And then that way it would show what you can do with a cube.
What you can do with a cube. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I already kind of thought of that, but thank you for putting it into words. Great minds think alike.
Yeah, well.
If the other person has a great mind. Okay. So be sure to tune in to Monday Morning Coffee with me. It may be a little shorter, and you're going, yay, because they have been kind of long lately. Because I have a dentist appointment at 9 o'clock, and I usually get up around 6 or something and do it, and then it has to be, prepared for publication.
No, you just had a dental appointment.
No, I didn't.
Oh,
where were you? You had one.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, a couple. No, I'm going in to have them scrape the crap off my teeth. I just always love that. It's amazing. Here's an aside. Probably talk about it on Monday. I'm going in for a cleaning. Well, my dental hygienist in there, or one of them, she some time ago recommended that you could come in every 4 months. I was going every 6 months for it. But she thought,
you're getting old.
No, that wasn't the reason. She says, well, maybe you should come in every 4 months. And I said, why? Well, your insurance will allow for that. Oh, it's not, yeah, it's better for your health or anything like that, your oral hygiene or something like that. It was, oh, because your insurance will cover that too. Well, our insurance covers 85% of it. It's a third party, but we're still paying for this.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
know. Dental care is not part of health care unless it's emergency.
yeah. So here in Canada,
Yeah.
other things are, but not dental and that. And yeah, so who's benefiting from that? They are in the
They're
office,
trying to milk the most out of you.
Yeah, but I believe them, so I started doing it. And now I've been doing it for a couple of years, and I go in every 4 months and get clean. And I'm always there in the chair for the same length of time. Now, I brush my teeth 3 to 4 times a day after every meal, basically before I go to bed. I have a water pick. I use my water pick every time I brush my teeth, and I floss every time that I brush my teeth. I mean, what the hell could possibly be in my mouth in there? And yet they're still in there.
They probably don't take as long, but they don't take that long with me, and I only get it done every 9 months. And we're under the same insurance plan. They haven't quite glued in.
Apparently not.
They said, "Oh, you still have the same insurance plan?" I said, "Yeah, they only cover me for 9 months."
Well, then you didn't get the hygienist I had, because I said, I don't think they cover me for that.
Well,
she went right to her computer and went, oh yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Well, units. They call it units.
Yeah, I know.
How that works. But anyways, how did we get on this?
Hey.
Yeah. More on Monday, maybe about that. But I just hated I hate going to the dentist. But I still have my own teeth and I'm almost 70. So, it's better than, waking up in the morning with your teeth laying beside you. Anyways, moving right along. If you've got any ideas for future videos for any of the things we put up during the week, or for So Chatty especially, you might be getting bored with Accuquilt. Please put them in the comment section below or send them to me as an email if you can find my email address. And we'll be happy to entertain your ideas. Yeah, we need ideas, people. We like ideas. They give us ideas. Your ideas give us more ideas, so it works. Okay, that's it from us today. Any final parting words? Anything you want to say? Good. Okay, we'll see you later. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Hi, I'm just going to interrupt my program for just 1 second to remind you to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for future notifications. That's all I ask of you. Show me a little love. Thanks.